Rest in peace, Salty. As many of you already know, I recently unboxed and reviewed Mr. Purple by W.H. Chizmar. It was the chapbook published by Levidian Publications, one of my absolute favorite publishers operating today. And it is a publication that only went out to the Patreon supporters of Brian James Freeman. So if you support the Patreon at $10 a month, you get 2 chapbooks a year, and one is a guest author chapbook, and the other one is a chapbook by Brian James Freeman. Anyway, I reviewed Mr. Purple. You can see that review right here if you'd like. But I'll save you some time. Mr. Purple is pretty much a dick joke in a nice suit. It's a very unworthy publication for Levidian to do, and I go into great detail ranting about it, but seriously, it's a dick joke. I don't recommend the story to anyone. However, I welcome alternate viewpoints. If you read the story and liked it, let me know. Anyway, in that review of the book, I bemoan the fact that it didn't go to a worthy author and it just went to nepotism. This is Richard Chizmar's son, who doesn't deserve the spotlight and certainly hasn't earned it with that story. And I mentioned the other chapbooks that Levidian did, including Doing Dirty Work by Brian James Freeman. And in my review, I admit I hadn't read this. Well, a friend of mine said he sat down and read it and really liked it. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to do that too. And I'm going to do, so I'm not like a hypocrite or at least uninformed about the other chapbooks that Levidian offers. The only other chapbooks I have from Levidian, I believe, is the Joe Hill book. And that's it. I think I have the Joe Hill, W.H. Chizmar, this one. I also might have a Richard Chizmar one, The Lake is Life. And I didn't read that one, and I'm not going to read it. I'll probably just sell it. And I just wanted to be fair and make you more informed about supporting Brian James Freeman. So what did I think? I think Doing Dirty Work is a great short story. It does what good authors do, and that's not insult the audience. It presents evidence. It allows the reader to think, to bring some sort of analytical skills to the table, to try to figure out where the story is going to go, and then reward the reader for sticking around. I mean, that's important. You can't do a bunch of head fakes and plot twists that, while the readers might not have seen it coming, is still ultimately unsatisfying and subverts the spirit of whatever they were reading. This is the kind of story that allows the reader to discover the story themselves. This is on the right side of show and tell. Where I thought the W.H. Chizmar story fell short, this one thrives. It creates and convinces. It makes the case that this story is worth reading. But because it's short, I don't want to say too much about it. But essentially, it's about a guy who's doing very illegal work. He's a hitman doing the dirty work that someone's paying him to do. And it seems like the organization that's paying the man is very professional and buttoned up, almost like the CIA or something. But you get the sense that this is very secret, hush-hush work this guy's about to take on. Life and death stuff. Other than that, I'm not going to say too much, but that's the general premise and what the reader is introduced to at the very beginning. And I loved it. I really did. I'd say it's a 4-star read. It's a short story. It's hard to give, for me, it's hard to give a star rating to a short story because you're not really going too deep. It's creating an emotion. It's giving a vignette into some event. But it does it thoroughly well. And I'm glad I got off my ass to read it. I've only read one other Brian James Freeman story, and that was about a guy who has a very morbid job. He photographs stillborn babies for grieving parents. Wow, that's a heavy-duty story, and he did it great. It was a great story. I wish I could remember the name of the story. I support Brian James Freeman largely because of his publishing work and what he has meant to small press publishing. I really believe the guy's heart is in it, and he has a passion for it and a talent for it. His writing is also very heartfelt. And I think he's a great writer. He's a very emotional writer. And I certainly will be reading more and not guilting myself into reading Brian James Freeman, but actually looking forward to it. So I am glad I did it. This chapbook, by comparison, is very, it's also very well done. The Mr. Purple chapbook was very well done, but you could tell it's compensating, right? It's a support bra for Willie Chiz. I'm going to call him Willie. I'm not going to call him Willem. I'm not going to call him William or Billy. I'm going to call him Willie, because that's what his story's about, a Willie. Mr. Purple is a Willie. But all that art and all that attention to the production of the chapbook is compensating for the lack of substance. This, on the other hand, is very understated but elegant. It's not stapled. It is perfect bound. The Joe Hill chapbook, I believe, is stapled. I could be wrong about that. And the artwork in here is lovely. Francois Villancourt provides some visuals that augment the story but don't fill in for the lack of story. And it's a great piece of fiction. It's a great piece of writing. It's a lot of fun to read it. This is exactly what Brian James Freeman should be doing with his time and effort. It's a worthy story, and it's why I support his Patreon. I believe in the guy. So this has been something of a palate cleanse for me to get over that Mr. Purple fiasco. And I hope Richard Chizmar himself is able to move on, because he tweeted that Mr. Purple gave him nightmares. Oh, it just pisses me off to see that. It really does. And I hate to beat a purple horse, but it's so annoying to see this, like, manufactured hype for a piece of crap story. And when I think of the leg up Richie Chiz got in his career just by penning a book with Stephen King, that's automatic sales. Stephen King's name on a book is automatic sales. And a lot of that went to Richie Chiz. Then Richie Chiz did the second book all by himself without the training wheels, I'm sure. Gwendy's Magic Feather. And I was suckered into buying a limited of that. And then he pens again with Uncle Stevie. Right on Uncle Stevie's lap, he pens The Final Task. And, of course, that's more instant money. And then gets a 2-book deal for another $500,000 to publish things that are just self-aggrandizing. And then he's going to push his son into this role, and whether or not the son deserves it. And so this sort of legacy privilege should not translate into sales. It should not. I think if there's anything to be vocal about in publishing, it's that we should not support talentless hacks. There's so many struggling authors out there trying to make a dent in that publishing world. And a lot of them are shut out for reasons that have nothing to do with the stories they want to tell. So that's my mini rant as someone who observes this stuff from the sidelines and doesn't have any real skin in the game. And I know later when I'm on Facebook and I see all these people singing the praises of Richard Chizmar and trying to curry favor, and knowing Richard Chizmar just does not give a shit about his detractors or his fans. He just doesn't care. Like, all this stuff is just noise to him. He just wants to go golfing or go to the lake, count his money. So if you are looking to support a great author and publisher, I suggest, I'll put the link in this description, go over to the Patreon for Brian James Freeman. Subscribe at a level, even the $10 a month level, and you'll get a chapbook. Hopefully he'll never do another Chizmar chapbook. But what can I say? They're practically family with the guy, and I can't entirely blame him. But I think it's important if we all let our voices be heard. This bullshit should stop. I don't think you can get Doing Dirty Work. I don't think you could buy it separately. You had to be a supporter. But you could check out eBay and see if it's available, or if you go to some of these Facebook groups like fans of Levidian, maybe there's somebody selling the chapbook. But if you see it and it's within your price range, it's worth a read. I don't know if it's been published in any other anthologies. It's a great little story. I can highly recommend here on this channel to go read it. But that's it for now. Stick around for more. Inevitably more. I never seem to run out of rants or things to talk about. I'm glad to see you this time. I hope to see you again next time. But in the meantime, stay frosty.